Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with Khazrak the One-Eye. Haven't used him too often, but we are going to be taking him today against the Empire, so let's go ahead and go to the army compositions. Got Khazrak the One-Eye, of course. He's immune to psychology when he has this buff active, as all Beastmen units do. This is kind of the Beastmen army-wide buff, the Primal Fury, similar to martial prowess, but it's leadership instead of health, and it has a different effect. Obviously, it's more of like a frenzy type effect. He also has the Dark Mail, which got a little bit of a change in the most recent patch. Rather than being map-wide and only going off when an enemy casts a spell, it's now constant area of effect. Still only affects casters, but if he gets in range of a caster, he will take their melee defense down by 9 and armor by 18, so that's pretty decent. He also has got Deadly Onslaught, Apocalyptic Vision, and the Scourge, which gives himself a huge combat stat buff and also gives him poison. On the Chariot, he has Armor Piercing Anti-Infantry, 100 armor, and 113 charge bonus, which is pretty serious. All things considered, Khazrak's not as terrible as he used to be. One other nice thing about the Chariot is they did give him Vanguard deployment, so he can now Vanguard deployed up with a force like this, like I've done here. We've got a force of Goreherds with shields mixed with regular Goreherds, the Blackhorns, Ravagers, Regiment of Renown out on the side. These guys look super cool. I love the kind of dark color scheme they have. We've also got Centaurs with throwing axes out to the flanks. 4 of them in total. Sons of Goros, Centaurs with great weapons bringing up the center. And we've also got the Eye of Morslib, who I think is an auto pick in most matchups. Already has racked up 8 kills, 9 kills, and more as that Boulder connects on some handgunners out in the far distance. He, of course, has the this ability here, Warp Gaze, which in and of itself is pretty good, but the fact that he's a Regiment of Renown Cygor, which means he fires faster and is more accurate, is also extremely powerful. We've also got a Brave Shaman Lord of Wild here with Jagged Dagger and Savage Dominion, just to summon up a couple more Cygors if the one wasn't enough. I have found that the basic Cygors are a lot less accurate than they used to be, but the Regiment of Renown one definitely still a Deadeye and a force to be reckoned with. Now for my opponent's force here, we've got Balthazar Gelt. The force is going to consist mostly of Spearmen with shields, Spearmen without shields. We've also got 6 handgunners, so a very heavy handgunner line. 2 light wizards as well, so that's pretty interesting. 2 Hellblaster volley guns and Demigryph Knights with halberds, bringing up the center in kind of a linebacker position. So I guess my opponent's idea here is to use Balthazar more or less as a battery and try and get as many nets as possible out of these 2 light wizards. They both got power stones and nets only, so they're relatively cheap. You can put out a lot of nets and get a lot of magic, and then Balthazar himself also has, let's see here, Searing Doom and Transmutation of Lead, so he's got a couple of spells, and of course Staff of Volans and Arcane Conduit. So let's go ahead and kick the battle into full gear. You can see one of the issues with the Hellblasters they're going to face on this map is they are a direct line of sight artillery piece, and you can see my Cygors throwing some boulders there, but yeah, the Hellblasters are not actually able to see over this hill. Hellblasters are actually a lot more effective than they used to be. They're a pretty decent artillery piece, but on this map it's going to be rough because they can't see up and over this slope. So, although this map, Schwarzhofen I believe it is, it looks on the battle select screen to be pretty decent for artillery. Because of the way the slope is, it's actually can be pretty rough, especially if you're starting on this far side, to get a direct line of sight artillery into the right position. You can see the Cygors firing away. We're just continuously folding back this front line here. I don't really want to get in range of those guns before we have to, so we're going to let them get nice and close and then rush forward once we have pressure to kind of go all out at once. We're going to summon up another Cygor here within range of the guns just to kind of distract them. Over here, I'm going to try and get these Centaurs with great weapons through, but my opponent very wisely right on point here with this Light Wizard. I'm going to miss micro just briefly here and get caught by an overcast net, and these Demigryph Knights are going to get in here and take out one of these units, no problem. We should be able to get away with some. I don't think they can kill all of them in time before that net drops, but it's definitely going to be rough. Now that we've got that second Cygor summoned up to soak some of the shots here, more than anything, we're going to start running forward the Goreherds with shields and other units. You can see that Hellblaster firing in, doing some brutal work. I mean, obviously the shields help against the handgunner fire. The shields are not going to do diddly dong against the Hellblaster volley guns there. So yeah, we're sneaking these Centaurs over and around the side. This Hellblaster volley gun does have range on them. They're right at the edge of the range here, so some brutal fire going to be opening up shots. Potentially, maybe Nope, doesn't look like they actually have line of sight at the moment, so yeah. Khazrak, though, running through, you can see the handgunners have taken a brutal amount of damage from the Cygors. Khazrak is going to catch these handgunners, but unfortunately also get caught by a net. We're going to get a little bit of a pitched engagement over here, where these gore herds with shields are going to meet some spearmen with shields, so they'll duke it out here for a while. But both of us kind of going with sort of skirmish builds, mine with the more mobility focus, his with the more infantry focus, his or her I guess, could totally be a female, I have no idea, but anyway, this Hellblaster volley gun has opened up shots here, but there's nothing really around to protect it. We've been able to pull away most of the supporting units to deal with the infantry here, so that is going to leave these Centaurs with great weapons to come in here and get a nice charge. They're going to take some heat. You can see Balthazar Gelt dropping a bombardment in the far distance, but yeah. Centaurs will make contact here despite taking some losses on the way in, and we'll be able to shut that down relatively shortly. Meanwhile, Khazrak back here, actually blowing up one of the Hellblaster volley guns. That's one angry picky there. But yeah, he's going to be getting in here, dealing with the crew. Meanwhile, this Light Wizard definitely receiving the brunt end of the engagement against this Bray Shaman here. He definitely wants to run away. Yeah, that Dark Mail effect, not quite in range, unfortunately, but my opponent did bring 3 casters, so potentially we can make use of that. You can see we did spring a little bit of a trap on these Demigryph Knights with Halberds, which had come back to try and deal with this Eye of Morsleep. We're going to get the Regiment of Renown Sons of Goros here to get a nice charge. They probably will get beat in the long term, but oh man, a really nice bombardment coming down from Balthazar, and actually dropping their combat stats with the Transmutation of Lead, so what had originally been a very favorable engagement to me is going to turn against me there. Those Demigryph Knights should be able to pull it back, but you can see the Beastmen overrun is pretty real in the back line. Both artillery pieces have been shattered at this point. A lot of the handgunners have been shut down, and it's mostly just spearmen fighting against gore herds in these kind of various little pitched pockets here. You can see these guys, Blackhorns Ravagers, fighting in this pocket. Obviously they have perfect vigor, so they can do this all day, man. They're just cutting through these state troops like it's no one's business. Meanwhile, in the back line, some point-blank shots coming down from the Eye of Morsleep here, and the other Cygor still barely alive. Going to be pitching some boulders into this pocket. They're going to finally make contact. Oh, actually electing to go after those gore herds, interesting. And then they're going to switch targets over to this Eye of Morsleep here. In this pocket, gore herds are getting routed off by overwhelming numbers, but the fact that we've been able to hold up those spearmen for a long time has kind of been the point. Over here you can see more gore herds getting into the spearmen. Obviously the Centaurs don't want to take that fight in melee, so we're going to use these guys to screen out and allow the Centaurs to go after these handgunners and so on. So they're getting chased off. Over here most of the units are shattered. You can see Khazrak is coming to regroup with these forces here. Do hear more nets going off. This Centaur with great weapons is going to get netted here. Unfortunately, those handgunners are going to get shattered just by the throwing axe fire there alone. But this gore herd is going to get surrounded and taken out. The Sons of Goros are going to rally here and come back to finish off these Demigryph Knights, who otherwise are doing a lot of damage to the Eye of Morsleep. Balthazar's in there helping out as well, but State Troop Spearmen collapsing here as Khazrak comes in for a brutal rear charge. Even against Spearmen, of course, if he gets a rear charge, they won't be braced, and the fact that he has such a high charge bonus just makes him surprisingly powerful. So he's going to do the same thing here, so we'll grab a nice cinematic shot of him just plowing over this line of State Troop Spearmen. Absolutely brutal stuff. And yeah, at this point we're pretty much in the cleanup phase. The Sons of Goros did come back and pretty much finish off those demis to a man, and now are going to be turning their attention to old Balthazar Gelt himself here, who's going to have a pretty hard time escaping, considering these Centaurs are pretty fast, 84 speed, not as fast as regular Centaurs, but still. These State Troop Spearmen still holding out in this pocket. This is really the last kind of resistance for the Empire forces here. But as soon as they break, I'm sure once Balthazar's leadership goes, the rest of them will rout. We actually got Balthazar with the warp gaze there and tried to hit him with a rock. Fortunately, didn't quite make contact, just barely clipped him, but most of the rock sailing the rest of the way out there. But yeah, at this point, these State Troop Spearmen feeling pretty good about themselves, but we're going to get in here with the Sons of Goros and finish things up with a nice charge. Since they were faced the other way, they weren't braced, and their leadership is going to crumble there. So yeah, fun battle. Very, very interesting army compositions on both sides. The initial Vanguard force, obviously I was hoping to catch him a little bit less awares, but the fact that he was deployed so far back definitely worked to his advantage there. I kind of see what he was going for with this very heavy gun line. Hellblasters especially, I mean, I'm not sure if these chevrons were doled out before the battle, but regardless, Hellblasters can be very effective. Unfortunately, that map just kind of worked in my opponent's disfavor, I guess. Really was too bad about having those line of sight artillery pieces over that big slope, but as is one thing to consider, even on maps that may look favorable, it's always a good idea to, if you can remember the map, think about, you know, if you have the range or the line of sight or so on. Cannons may have been able to sit further back and they're a bit cheaper, so it may have been a better pick there. In this particular matchup, it can be tricky in general to protect artillery pieces because the Beastmen are so fast and they can go really wide and really get a lot of map control that way. Because, for example, because he only had really one mobile unit, I was able to just spread out my Centaurs all over the map and kind of really gain some map control in that way and kind of dictate some engagements. So it can be tough to protect artillery against the Beastmen. I don't know that I would necessarily bring it. I might just cut these guys and go with some missile cab instead. Obviously, this build you would need to cut some other stuff down or maybe upgrade some things because you wouldn't have enough unit slots, but Pistoliers I find are pretty good pick against the Beastmen. They can really contest the mobility game with Centaurs if you support them with some Reichsguard, so maybe cutting down these Hellblasters, maybe cutting these regular Spearmen as well, and a couple of handgunners, and then you go with some Pistoliers and some Reichsguard to kind of contest the mobility phase a little bit. Interesting Heroic Corps, not a terrible idea honestly, with the double nets and with the Balthazar to be a nice battery. But yeah, you can see on my end, the Eye of More Sleep, 129 kills, just an absolute powerhouse, pounded those handgunners, really didn't allow them to do any work at all. And likewise, the two Centaurs that got in on the left flank were able to take out that Hellblaster volley gun crew and then run through and clean up a lot of the routing handgunners. Blackhorns Ravagers, 161. These guys are actually really good against kind of lighter armor factions that tend to bring a lot of lower tier infantry. Because they have that perfect vigor, they can just cut through chaff all day and they won't get tired, which is always nice. The other Gore Herds did decently well aside from this one, but 97 on Khazrak himself, and he really wasn't challenged at all. The Demis didn't try and go after him or anything. The Demis themselves, though, 98 kills up to a silver XP chevron. They definitely had their work cut out for them, and another unit of Demis might have served my opponent very well, just because I had such a heavy mobility build, which with a lot of large units. May have been worth also upgrading these guys to the Roy Altdorf Griffites so you can get that terror. Beastmen generally are weak to terror. I mean, obviously they're immune to psychology when their leadership is high, but if you could do some shock damage, bring their leadership down, then you can potentially terror out them. The Roy Altdorf Griffites are pretty good at doing that, besides their better combat stats, which obviously help them out in those big monstrous engagements. But just kind of my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Very interesting battle. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video you'll be notified. Thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time.